Rovers, welcome back to the channel. My name is Zeno, and let's chat about one of the biggest character blunders in 2025 for Wuthering Waves, which I think is Zani. Just so everyone knows, this comes from like a place of love. I think it's good to do a retrospective like look on characters or kits, especially when we can now compare them to all the other designs and kits that have come out since her original release. Now, I want to talk more specifically about her very flawed kit design. I feel like everyone already knows what this video is going to go over, but you're pretty much already on the money. She is currently rerunning in 2.7, and I haven't had a chance to talk about Zani since I made videos on her back on her OG release during Anniversary. So if you're interested in hearing me kind of rant about Zani, welcome aboard. But also, just let me know what you think of Zani now that a lot more time has passed in the community. A lot more people have their hands on her, and maybe some people are now summoning for her for the very first time. Like, when did you summon for her? If you have her, was it during the Anniversary? Is it during this patch? Do you run her with Phoebe? Are you struggling with Spectro Rover? Like, I'm curious, did her reliance on Phoebe actually turn you off from getting her in general? Like, let me know down in the comment section. So I think now that the honeymoon period has worn off, hopefully we can have like just a more adult conversation and admit Kuro really fumbled one of their most anticipated units to date in terms of her kit design. And as such, unless you have Phoebe, I cannot stress enough, do not summon Zani. She will actually just feel really awful to play now, even on a casual level. So I want to go over some of Zani's positives first, though, you know, to lift up everyone's mood before I get it crushing down. And because I do think she has a lot of positives, but a lot of the pros that I'm going to list are mostly design and appearance. They're not necessarily like kit functionality wise. So for those that are new or haven't seen in the past, I myself have an S2 Zani. Just due to like a lucky double multi, and then I grabbed her S2 specifically with corals from the store, and I also have her weapon. I also have Shorekeeper and her weapon, and I have Phoebe and her weapon. Although Phoebe was just like one of the very first units I ever summoned in the game in 2.1, way before we knew what Zani could do or what she needed, so that was just pure dumb luck. But this isn't a humble brag, by the way. It's just to let people know the context. Like, I have the full and current premium Zani team, and I want to stress the word current in quotation marks, with vertical investment in her S2. So a lot of Zani's core issues and reliance on Spectrofragile just as like a debuff as a whole has never really affected me or my account in the way that I play Zani. Now, I am no Zani expert, like far from it. I'm just a casual, but I really do love her character as a whole and just her design, like as a personality and everything. And who knows, maybe one day we'll get a costume for her. That would be nice, wink wink. So the main pros about Zani to me is her sound design, her model appearance before and after her transformation, her transformation liberation in general, her weapon design and the effects, just aura farming, her accent and her VA, and just general tired, overworked employee vibes that resonate with me on a personal scale as I'm currently having a midlife crisis. I think Zani's awesome. I think she's fun to play for me. Although she has like main issues and even the fun factor, which we'll get into rotation-wise, being just like so reliant on her liberation. But I really like Zani, and every time that I get to pick up and play her, whether it's like a Whimpering Waste stage that maybe favors Spectrofragile or a Tower Adversity, I enjoy Zani a lot. And I think the way she wields a giant shield turned like greatsword is very unique and like Monster Hunter style. The way she kicks the shield forward into like a spinning motion and she like flexes, the way she like sits back on the chair, it's like peak animations, right? The fact that she has like a perfect parry block with her shield and like really good timing, it's excellent for like skilled players. Like the sound effect of the weapon hitting enemies and like the transformation into basically like a Super Saiyan with like a close-up of her eyes shot, the tie rip, the bust of her big chest holding on for dear life. You can tell that the design and combat team had like a lot of fun and a lot of love to put into Zani. Like, there is no denying how much they wanted Zani to be like this really unique character and like shine above the other release resonators at the time. Hence why she was also an anniversary selling unit. So that's enough glazing, right? But however, again, the cons. Zani's entire gimmick, her kit, revolves around turning Spectro-Frazzle stacks into her Blaze Forte buff, needed to activate combos in her liberation state. Zani has absolutely zero way to apply Spectro-Frazzle herself. None. This is a glaring and obvious fault of the devs in order to sell Phoebe. Even her sequence nodes do not change this, outside of sequence 6, which can restore some blaze points if you have less than a certain amount, but that's still not the same thing. So there's just no getting around it. To make a character like her that's so beloved, with like a fun kit to play, with like, she's got zero nada ways to actually function properly without another premium unit and a very specific premium unit. In retrospect, this is actually kind of insane, especially as Kuro at the time was gathering nothing but positive praise for like months prior, as 2.0 was just like being such an amazing patch update for the game. Now, okay, before you type it out, if you haven't already, I get it. Spectro Rover. Sure, they do work. They are free as well, which is actually a pretty big plus, but can we just not kid ourselves anymore? They are 100% a coping option. Like, they are not fully comfortable to use. They require sweating to get the most stacks possible and quick swapping. And more importantly, outside the elite players, they're not that fun to use with her for general use. Also, yes, there is also like solo Zani showcases out there on YouTube, but we're not talking about the exception to the rules here. We're talking about the norm and the average casual players. So when Spectro-Frazzle got added to Spectro Rover's kit back in 2.0, I think it was 2.0, we had many shield Spectro buffs in like tier way and endgame to help them look like super strong and super useful. And when Zani released, while we had the drip marketing for Carter Thea, unless you looked into pre-release information, not everyone would actually know how vital the new Aero Rover might be for Carter Thea teams, especially if you didn't go for Chacona as well. So if you were one of the few, and I'd actually argue maybe many people, who went for such a hyped up release character like Zani, but you didn't have or you didn't want to get Phoebe, you had to use Spectro Rover. There was quite literally zero options to have a functioning Zani team without Spectro Rover. And what if you wanted to go for Carter Thea, who was literally the next banner cycle during Anniversary, and didn't have enough or didn't want to go for Chacona as well? You couldn't use both of the Rovers at once. Now that the game has actually progressed, like many months past, when you deep dive into Phoebe and Zani's actual team comp, you can just see how insane and egregious some of these buffs are between them to back each other up very specifically. Like, Phoebe's outro skill is absurd and so specific for Zani. A 10% Spectro res shred, 100% Spectro damage amp buff, a 50% Spectro frazzle buff extension so it doesn't fall off when you use Zani's liberation. 30-second timer, by the way. Phoebe's weapon gives a Spectro Frazzle amp on her very niche outro for like another 30%. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, it's so specific and so strong. And what's worse is Phoebe has now kind of been reduced to a Frazzle bot. She still doesn't have a Frazzle applier herself, so she can function as a very competent main DPS. The option is still Spectro Rover, which again, kind of sucks. Another conversation for another day. Shout out to Phoebe though, like super underrated mega waifu, would absolutely marry and protect. Now, I don't mind units that have very clear synergy. We've had so many banners like this since Zani's release, and even a couple before. Examples, Carter Thea and Chacona are clear-cut pairs. Frolova and Cantarella, Brandt and Looper, Augusta and Yuno, Galbrenna and Chuyuan, Carlotta and Jeji, even though Jeji's a little bit older from 1.x and Carlotta was the start of 2.0. The difference is all of these units have other ways to use them, or they can be used individually to like a decent degree. All of these units can be used in endgame without their premium best in slot partners, and while getting like massive boosts from their best in slots, they aren't required to actually function as units at all, which is crazy. Another big problem is you don't just need to inflict Spectrofrazzle. Zani's kit is also tied to the amount you need to inflict. Her damage relies on the amount of combos that you can do inside her Liberation form, which again is tied to the amount of individual stacks that you can inflict prior to turn into Blaze for Zani. Spectro Rover cannot inflict the same amount of stacks or even close without like very heavy sweating rotations, quick swapping and high skill involved, all while being mostly single target. And Spectro Rover doesn't have even remotely the same amount of buffs that Phoebe has. Maybe if Spectro Rover could inflict the same amount, and maybe on a bit of an AoE scale, it wouldn't matter so much if they don't have all the buffs that Phoebe does, because they can at least make sure Zani functions comfortably to like a high degree. Phoebe's is AoE, and actually has a lot of AoE in her Confession state and Liberation just to hit more than one enemy at once. Another issue is, unless Kuro was to go into Zani's kit and actually change it slightly, I don't think we're ever gonna get another unit that can actually do what Phoebe does for a Zani team. That would be like straight up power creeping and sidelining Phoebe, which is pointless. That then just summon Phoebe. Like, Phoebe's buffs and Spectrofrazzle amplification and appliance are just like so specific to boosting Zani's core kit from quite literally the ground up. Anything that is not as good as Phoebe is like a lesser value pool and almost like a waste of a potential character. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible for Kuro to find a creative solution in this in the future, but the dominoes kind of have to align like so well that I just feel like it's probably very difficult. One of the last things, because so much of her damage is tied to her Liberation state, she kind of only feels okay to play casually in like Overworld. I remember in my previous video when I did like my first impressions of Zani, I was like, yeah, you can use her in Overworld. She is decent. Like, she's not the best, but I am having fun. But now obviously in retrospect, I look back and I'm like, yeah, but I had Phoebe to apply debuffs if I needed to, and I had S2. That's a big power difference. And I had the weapon. Like, that makes a massive difference, man. And so I have definitely softened on this now over time for Overworld gameplay compared to what I initially thought. All in all, like, Zani is very, very strong. She's fun with the premium comp. She does extremely well in TOA and Whimpering Waste. Like, I've always had great success with her, but again, I've got the premium team and vertically invested. That is such a large difference in scale compared to like a free-to-play or a casual that can only maybe get just Phoebe and Zani, or just Zani and her weapon and have to use Spectro Rover. Like, Zani not having the thing in her kit that her entire kit relies on, again, in retrospect, is kind of wild to me. Like, I'm glad Kuro seemed to have kind of learned from all these examples prior that I've mentioned, and Cardathea admittedly does suffer from this too, but not to the same degree at all. Like, you can use a solo Cardathea. And maybe soon we'll be getting another unit that might be able to help a Zani or a Cardathea, wink wink. But all in all, kind of upsetting, because like, Zani is such a loved unit on release, or just a loved character specifically. She was one of the most hyped up. And now I look back in retrospective and I'm like, even with my personal Zani team, and I'm like, damn, I could not play this without Phoebe. It would feel awful. Like, it wouldn't be that fun to me. And as the game gets like slowly harder endgame wise, and for those that don't want or can't get Phoebe, hats off to you, man. I don't know how you do it. Like, if you even play Zani anymore, or if you want to summon Zani now, like, Oh, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm rambling. I just wanted to get that off my chest while Zani's banner was actually live, just because I haven't spoken about this character since the anniversary. So, and I just don't want to see many people make bad choices and potentially regret it. Of course, if she's your waifu, if you like her, enjoy her to whatever degree you can. But just like, she's one of the very few characters, if not the most egregious example of a character where it's like, if you do not get another premium 5-star alongside her, she is not going to be as fun. She's gonna feel worse. And that's just, that feels bad, man. And it feels bad. Anyway, with that all being said, I'll leave the ranting there. So I hope you guys are having a fan-frickin-tastic rest of the day. And as always, my name is Zeno, and you guys take care now.